to Strictly Business, Variety's weekly podcast featuring conversations with industry leaders about the business of entertainment. I'm Cynthia Littleton, co-editor-in-chief of Variety. Today, my guest is Eric Sandler, Chief Strategy Officer for Pushkin Industries. If you love great narrative podcasts, you know this audio signature that opens Pushkin titles. Pushkin is one of podcasting's premium studios. It was co-founded in 2018 by Malcolm Gladwell and Jacob Weisberg. It's home to great series such as Gladwell's Revisionist History and Against the Rules, hosted by author Michael Lewis. Sandler and I discuss the macro environment for podcasting and audio entertainment. He also details the company's creator-first strategy of nurturing shows and talent across all media platforms. Fans of The Big Short should get ready for a big 10th anniversary look back at the movie based on Lewis's book that captured all the drama that tanked the housing market. Pushkin will release The Big Short as an audiobook for the first time, narrated by Lewis, and Lewis will host a companion podcast series that will revisit the key events and key players. And Sandler explains why there's a lot more to come from one of podcasting's hottest shops. Thanks for listening. Be sure to leave us a review on the podcast platform of your choice. Please go to Variety.com and sign up for the free weekly Strictly Business newsletter. And don't forget to tune in next week for another episode of Strictly Business. Eric Sandler, Chief Strategy Officer for Pushkin Industries, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Well, I'm a Pushkin fan. You do my kind of podcast, very thoughtful, very heady, really interesting deep dives into corners of history that I didn't know about. One of my favorites is Lost Hills from the great Dana Goodyear. Terrific investigative reporting. I could go on. Eric, I want to talk. You have some news. You have a broad new slate, some really interesting stuff coming. I wanted to talk first, though, about the macro podcasting environment. Where are you seeing the most pockets of growth, the biggest opportunities for your top titles?
The industry has been around for quite a few years now, but in some ways it still feels really new. You still have people who have never listened to a podcast, even though that percentage is shrinking at this point. And I think what we find is that quality matters, right? The more quality storytelling you put out, the more audience you will grow from there. But there's been some turmoil in the industry and some changes to the models of how things are consumed, but I don't think that actually takes away from the core mission of what we do at Pushkin, which is telling stories that entertain people, inform people, make people think about things in a different way. Malcolm Gladwell, our co-founder, always liked to say that if you want to make someone think about something, then he'll write it in a book. If he wants to make someone feel something, he'll put it into audio. There's just such an impactful element to the overall medium.
I find just as a consumer, it's a different way to absorb, especially complicated information. So just a bit in the hardcore business of Pushkin, you have a mix of ad-supported, podcasting is very ad-supported, but you also do have a subscription platform as well?
That's correct. We're ad-supported across our podcast. We also have Pushkin Plus, which is a network-wide subscription. We offer ad-free content. We offer binge opportunities, early access, bonus content. Another pillar of what we do is audiobooks, though, which is unique for Pushkin. Mm-hmm. So many of our hosts and our creators are also authors, and that's what Pushkin was born out of. And so we see a really cohesive audience across podcasts and audiobooks. There's a really interesting pipeline that we're creating, which is a space that used to be held by magazines and newspapers. And this is something that Malcolm's thought a lot about, which is, when he wrote The Tipping Point, his first book, it was first an article in the New Yorker. And there were so many of his peers that were growing up in this industry that was building them to be the next best-selling authors, the next TV scriptwriters, the next movie scriptwriters. That ecosystem has changed, and podcasting is filling that space. And so what we see is the ability to take a podcast series that's a couple episodes and then expand it into an audiobook and a print book and a TV film option as well. So an example of that would be Malcolm's Bomber Mafia series. It started as 4 episodes in Revisionist History a couple of years ago, got turned into an audiobook, and we did a little bit of a reversal of the pipeline, and we sold the print rights, and that got optioned by A24 for TV film. And so we want to create more opportunities for more storytellers to use this as a testing ground for content, really drive home really impactful stories, and be able to explore the funnel in a different way.
Of the different sort of tranches of business, is there one that is like your biggest growth driver at this time?
Ads continue to be a huge part of our business. I would say audiobooks is right up there, and subscriptions is growing. What we see is that there's not as much overlap between books and podcasts as you might assume. And so things that are put out as a podcast can also be turned into a book in an interesting way. And that's not cannibalizing the audience. It's finding new audience and new places that people listen. The other side of our business, in addition to ad-supported, is full branded podcasts. So we do a really great one with IBM called Smart Talks with IBM, hosted by Malcolm. It's an amazing show that has narrative audio episodes. It has live events. It has video companions alongside with it. And what we see is that creating great content is the core of what we want to do, whether that's branded content, whether that's ad-supported podcasts, whether that's audiobooks. And the audience comes to it. We did one with Puma and Tracksmith a couple of years ago as well. And it was named one of the 10 best podcasts of the year by the New York Times as a branded podcast. It just happened to be so good that the audience came for it. And that's the type of thing that we're looking to expand on.
Part of the news that we're talking about today is you have re-upped your Pushkin Industries relationship with iHeart Podcasts. You had a partnership for about 5 years. Are there things that you've been able to do in tandem with iHeart that you don't think you would have been able to do on your own over these last 5 years that have been a very momentous time for podcast listening?
iHeart is a remarkable partner for us. They continue to really excel at scale and distribution, as well as positioning Pushkin as a premium ad sales opportunity. So our partnership with IBM is alongside with iHeart as well. And they continue to treat us as a network with premium storytelling that can bring that to brands. And their ability to do that has increased year over year. Like, they really understand what we're about. It's not a faceless organization, right? The people who work there really understand audio. They really understand podcasting.
When you're talking to people, is there still a lot of education to be done about audio?
I think less so. I would say the education portion is how to execute in the best way. There's a lot of ways in which you can execute an audio, whether that's a straight ad read or a host read or a pre-record or a custom mid-roll or branded segment or a custom episode or a full series or live events or video. What we try to do is to guide folks through the process in terms of what's their desired outcome, right? Like, we talked to a brand who was doing one thing in video and trying to translate that to audio with the same assets. Audio is a distinct medium with a distinct relationship with consumers. And so where we excel is translating that for them.
As a listener, you can tell that Micah Lewis and Malcolm Gladwell are not just reading blue cards. They are invested within the partnership with iHeart. Are you able to still be a free agent in other areas like content licensing? If somebody comes to you or you want to pitch a movie from one of your podcasts, are you a free agent in that, or is there an iHeart relationship that continues there?
iHeart is our exclusive ads and monetization partner across our podcast. What that means is the dynamic ad opportunities across our inventory are handled by iHeart. But in terms of the IP and the audiobooks and things like that, Pushkin remains independent, and we're creatively independent as well. So we remain sort of best of both worlds. Like, we have this wonderful partnership with iHeart that's so fruitful, and we continue to grow there, but we also continue to grow independently across audiobooks and TV film and other licensing opportunities.
It sounds like you have the heft to fund your own development. You could invest in something and experiment before you take it wider.
Absolutely. We do co-productions with iHeart as well, which are awesome. Shows like Risky Business, What's Your Problem, Where's Dia? But we also fund our own development as well.
What do you find really allows you to break through the vast expanse? Obviously, a name like a Malcolm Gladwell, Micah Lewis, that's going to stand apart because of their personal brands. But in a situation, if you're trying something less known, what have you found is effective to help launch a new property with somebody that doesn't already bring an audience to the table?
We work with a lot of great creators who are already established, whether that's in the book world, whether that's in the movie world, whether that's in the music world. That's true of some of our creators, but that's not true of all of our creators. We believe in great storytellers. And we build that internally as well. In our fall slate, we have a show called The Chinatown Sting, and it's hosted LJ Cott. She's been a producer over the last few years on Michael Lewis's podcast on Against the Rules, and she appeared in the last sports gambling season as well. So we like to grow talent within Pushkin, no, it really speaks to our network.
Do you have a basic volume of titles that you want to have in a given year or a given half year? Do you think about it along those lines in terms of organizing your slate?
No, not necessarily volume. We have quite a few ongoing shows that work on different cadences. We have always on shows. We have shows that come seasonally. We have shows that are bi-weekly. We have shows on sort of all different cadences. And we want to continue growing new shows and giving those new shows opportunities in the network. So we want to be financially responsible in our investments and balancing what we can support as a network, while also being ambitious, right? We want to be able to support the titles that we put out. We don't want to put something in the marketplace and then go, oh, we don't really have the resources to stand this up in the way that we would have hoped. I never want to be in that situation. And so you'll see new shows coming next year. And yes, that includes new limited narratives. Yes, that includes new weeklies. Yes, that includes shows that are on video and shows that are audio only. But finding that balance is what we're always seeking to do for the audience. Like I was listening to this show a couple weeks ago, and you're speaking about the Paramount and Skydance merger. And one of your guests made a point at the end, which was so poignant, which was that we could talk about the money, we could talk about the business, but it's the storytelling and the stories that people need. And I feel totally aligned with that.
Going back to cave paintings, I think the evidence is pretty clear. And thank you for listening.
That was great. We love it.
That's a good segue. So two of your boldest names in the Pushkin firmament have new projects coming. Malcolm Gladwell is back with a new season of Revisionist History, this time taking on capital punishment, looking at a case that played out in Alabama and looking at the situations and the dynamics that inform this very difficult subject. When you have a new Malcolm project, that's really like a tentpole for you. You are pulling out all the stops, I'm sure, to get this up. Can you give us a sense of how this will be rolled out?
I was talking to Malcolm recently, and he made the comment that he thought this could be one of the best things he's done since starting Pushkin.
That's high praise.
Really remarkable 6 years later, right? I think the thing that continues to amaze me is that the content gets better and better. You think about the typical life cycle of a hit in media, right? And something can grow, and then it sustains, and then maybe it drops off a little bit. The fact that the creators that we work with, Malcolm specifically, are creating content that gets better and better is absolutely remarkable to me. We also have Jake Halpern on the network, who Variety named one of the 10 storytellers to watch for 2025. And he just published the 6th season of Deep Cover, and it hit #1 for the first time. Like, that show continues to get better and better and better. And I can't wait for next season, which is coming in 2026 as well. I think this season specifically for Malcolm will be something new for folks, which will be really interesting. It's not quite true crime, but it has elements of the true crime series that people are familiar with in the Malcolm style that gets his message across. So it's going to be 7 episodes, and it's launching October 2nd. And you'll see quite a bit of press around that. Of course, Malcolm will be speaking about it. It's a hefty topic. Be contextualized. It'll be promoted across the Pushkin network as well as iHeart. You'll see some live activations with Malcolm as well.
Also about Michael Lewis is hard to believe. 10 years since The Big Short. I remember seeing that in the theater, and it was so inventive in the storytelling form of the film. So if I understand this right, Pushkin is going to re-release The Big Short as an audiobook. As part of that, Michael Lewis is going to host a companion series as part of his ongoing Against the Rules series that will launch October 14th and look back now at 10 years since The Big Short. What's changed? What's not? It sounds so good. Everything I know about the mortgage crisis came from The Big Short, the book, which I devoured, and the movie, which I have seen at least twice. Is this the kind of thing that now you're going to use this to bring attention to other new shows?
This is one of the coolest projects that we do with Michael, honestly. And it speaks to the depth of the content that the creators we work with make. Like, this is not disposable things that you listen to once and you never return. It's almost like a content pipeline reversal. 15 years ago, it was a best-selling book. 10 years ago, it was an Oscar-winning film. And next month, it's going to be a companion podcast with an audiobook, which he never did back in the day when he wrote the book. And so the first audiobook he's done of The Big Short, and what we saw unfold in the events of The Big Short are playing out in government today, right? It's still as relevant today as it was when he wrote it. And so the ability to go back and reflect on that in the companion podcast alongside the new audiobook is something that we're so excited about. We did it with his first book, Liar's Poker, a couple years ago.
Yes, of course.
we'll continue to do that over the next few years as well. Really excited about building that overall series with Michael as well. And the companion podcast is going to be amazing. He's talking to folks who are involved in the film, the real life inspirations for the characters. So I think you'll come away with something completely new from this iteration of it.
You earlier mentioned an upcoming title called The Chinatown Sting, a 6-episode limited series that is premiering September 16th. It's from Lydia Jean Cott. Anybody who listened to Michael Lewis's podcast coverage of the Sam Bankman-Fried trial knows Lydia Jean. She was a star of that series, and can't wait for her to dive into. It's late 1980s, Manhattan's Chinatown, massive undercover drug bust. Sounds like a lot of things to revisit. And of course, there's a whole subgenre now of looking back at crime and things through the lens of today and how institutional racism and many other factors influence social justice and criminal justice. This must also be fulfilling for you to have somebody come from the grassroots to now doing her own show.
Absolutely. It's so refreshing to see her grow as the producer of Against the Rules with Michael, and then coming and pitching her own story and reporting it out and becoming this massively talented storyteller. And we're doing a live event with her at a mahjong parlor with Michael interviewing LJ alongside a bunch of Big Short events too. So it really shows the network effect of Pushkin. You're going to see more and more amazing storytellers come out of the Pushkin network. And LJ is just the beginning of it. Justin Richmond on Broken Record was Rick Rubin's producer and Malcolm's producer. And there's just so many names that are coming up that folks will become familiar with over the coming months and years. And we're thrilled to be a place that can actually happen.
You have a number of other titles coming. Listeners, you can read a whole separate story about this on Variety.com right now. Eric, before I let you go, anything here out of these that are coming that you'd particularly like to highlight? Is there anything that amounts to a new genre or a new initiative for the company?
I'd say heavyweight. We are so thrilled that Heavyweight joined the Pushkin Network. It came up through the Spotify ranks, and the production had stopped about 1.5 years ago. And we just couldn't let Heavyweight go. I always joke internally that I never have anyone that I speak to who says, I like Heavyweight. It's either you've never heard of Heavyweight or this is your favorite show of all time. It is such an amazing journey that it takes listeners on. And I think there's something so special about investing in stories that unfold over time. Some of the stories coming out this season have literally been in the hopper and being reported for years. Maybe there was one last interview they needed that just didn't happen, or they never thought would happen, and they put it to the side. And then all of a sudden it happens. That's the type of special storytelling that we want to make sure there's room for in the industry and continue to support. I think listeners and podcast folks in general would just be heartbroken to see this go away. And so that's the type of work that we want to support. And I'm so excited to be working with Jonathan. We're thrilled to be bringing a new season of that coming shortly, a couple weeks here.
Well, I'm in the former category of haven't heard of it, but I will definitely rectify that. You raise a good point that the investigative, the depth of the reporting that is done here, that takes time. And obviously that takes money because journalists and podcasters and writers got to eat. How do people juggle the demands of doing the kind of depth that you bring to the ear versus, making a living?
We strive to support the monetization increasingly and find economic models that work for creators. And so that's a benefit of being at the network that we are today, right? We really believe in this. There's a dramatic statement going on in the overall audio industry of narrative podcasting is gone and everything has to be chat and interview and video.
Perish the thought.
I just don't think that's true. And that's not what we're seeing happen at Pushkin. We want to give creators the opportunity to continue to report out premium stories, and that bears out in the marketplace, like creating that funnel so that a narrative series can become a book, can become a TV show or a movie. We're getting calls, it feels like every week now, from TV studios, movie studios, major book publishers looking at those stories because they really hit the emotional tones.
There's journalists out there pumping their fists, Eric. That is exactly what people want to hear, which is supporting quality, giving people the time to do the work. Any journalist will tell you the more time you can spend reporting a story, researching a story, the richer the final product. No question.
Absolutely. And I think the way in which we're able to enable that is building this audience that knows what to expect, right? Like when we launch a new show, when we launch a new project, there is that Pushkin audience that is there and they're hungry for it. And that continues to grow and get more opportunities.
Eric, my last question for you is the name Pushkin. Alexander Pushkin was a very colorful figure, a literary figure, a poet and writer active in Russia in the early 1800s. He met an Alexander Hamilton-like end in a duel. I'm curious, do you know the origin story of why they called it Pushkin Industries?
It's fun. There are a lot of names floated around in our conference rooms in our office are still named after other Russian poets and other folks. Pushkin represents a multicultural creator who wasn't afraid to shift the boundaries and explore storytelling and creativity, whatever that format may look like. And that goes to the core of how Pushkin Industries was started and the type of work that we want to do. We want to blur the lines between genres and formats, and we want to have diverse voices across our network. And we want to create content that stands the test of time and also makes a real impact in people's lives.
Really looking forward to diving into the new slate. Eric, thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to leave us a review at Apple Podcasts or Amazon Music. We love to hear from listeners. Please go to variety.com and sign up for the free weekly Strictly Business newsletter. And don't forget to tune in next week for another episode of Strictly Business.